But that gets us to his last studio album, which was 2012's Brother Sinner and the Whale. And, I've chosen to keep my correspondences with Kelly Joe private, but I did come across this one email that really helps you see where he was at artistically. And he refers in it to a live performance that he did of God Don't Never Change, which is a Blind Willie Johnson song that he loved. And I'll actually show you the clip that he's talking about right after I read this. So he wrote this to me. Have a look at this thing when you get a chance, a version of me doing Blind Willie. It's not the best video by any means, but it sure seems to be something mighty is happening up in the music, like nothing else there ever was. Sounds too like lap versus bottleneck has become a worthless debate. I thought to show you this based on thinking of what we might do for the next record. Maybe this sort of thing could start the conversation, I don't know. Also wanted to show you this, being that you are my closest musical comrade. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's awfully nice thing to say. Two ideas come to me, although loose ideas. Doing the guitar evangelist old style thing by recording all tunes like this from famous gospel blues old timers. That's one idea. The other idea being, maybe we ought to try recording during typical gig hours, pushing the on button around 8 at night and going till midnight. It'd be great, I think, to catch this kind of spirit on record without having to do a live thing in front of people. Maybe have dinner at 5:30, a couple slow beers between 6 and 8, have a smoke, and then push the button. Just thinking, but I sure do love the spirit of this tune on this video. Fearless and relaxed all at the same time, like a shine-eyed Mr. Zen. So true. So I'm going to show you just a little bit of this video that he's talking about. You can watch the whole thing on YouTube if you look it up. It's pretty insane. He's definitely, I would say, at the top of his game here, and he's playing bottleneck. So let's check out a little bit of this. This is God Don't Never Change.
Got way out at sea. Well, the ever great creator, true, was a guy that made. Yeah, I know. Well, God don't ever change, you know. Well, he always will be God.
Yeah, what groove. That's insane. So great. Anyway, that's how it started. And we did indeed record Brother Sinner between 8 p.m. and midnight over, I don't remember, 3 or 4 days, I guess. And let's just listen to a little bit from that record. This is a brilliant song called Down to the Praying Ground from Brother Sinner and the Whale.
So many years dead on a hollow road, dirty old blood running through my veins, making all kind of weird decisions, cut all the light from the sky, seeing changes, my knees are falling down to the break ground, holding my hand, grab hold of my soul forgot. Forgot, yeah. It's been a time I should have not lived.
And one other thing I just wanted to play for you is an outtake from that record, and it's a beautiful song called "Let That Water Roll." And to my knowledge, he never played it live. He just dropped it shortly after recording it. But I always loved this song. I kind of bugged him to keep it on the record, but I think he had a pretty strong vision at that point of how he wanted the record to go, and this just didn't fit that vision anymore for whatever reason. So I don't know how he would feel about me playing this for you, but it's really good. Here, it's just a snippet of that song, and it's called "Let That Water Roll." And I don't think anyone's ever heard it before.
Can you tell me, boys, where does this river run? Can you tell me, boys, if it ever runs dry? I have heard about everlasting water. I have heard it said salvation is there. Please won't you let me go, lay me down beside, help me lift up this crippled body, let that water flow.
So that's the kind of stuff Kelly Joe was cutting from albums at that point. Really, really amazing playing and singing and writing. Rachel, did you talk much about with him at that point around 2012 about what he was up to musically or personally around that time?
Yeah, actually, my husband Nils and we lived with him the end of 2011 through most of 2012 at the house in Vancouver. And so we were there. We would hear him writing the songs, practicing the songs. He had a little recording studio set up kind of in his basement. So he would be down there all day long, and specifically Spit Me Out of the Whale. We would just hear over and over and over again.
I know he really obsessed about that song. Like, it was hard.
Yeah.
He wanted to get it down at time. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, that one was just played over and over again. So again, it's another album where I know exactly what was going on in his life at the time. And I was basically there with him every day, and my husband as well. And my husband and I both were not musicians, but we do play instruments. And so we would sometimes play with him. And my husband, he does a little bit of audio engineering, and he kind of got into really old school sound producing, very minimal, and that kind of inspired him with this album too, to do things a little bit more pared back and minimal. Yeah. And so yeah, it was a time in my adult life, really the only time where I was close with him, living with him, and around for his music. So
cool. Very cool. One of the things that I really remember talking with him about at this time was he was really obsessed with purity and guitar sounds, and I think that comes through on this record. But he took it into the live performance realm to the extreme too. So he'd removed all the pickups from his guitars because he knew that if he showed up at a gig wanting to play into a mic, which is what he wanted to do all of a sudden from about, I guess, 2011 on or 2012 on, he just didn't want to plug his guitar in anymore. And he knew that if he showed up with a pickup in his guitar, that he'd get into like a kerfuffle with the sound man about like, well, I could make it sound better if it was plugged in. And so he just removed them all. So he would show up with no pickups and a microphone and just say, stick that in front of it. And that's how he dealt with it. Yeah, he just said, screw it. It's got to be pure. He struggled with it. And I saw a few shows where it didn't work well, especially on outdoor stages, because he was a pretty quiet player, like at times he could play loud, but in general, he's playing finger style with bare fingers, and he just didn't have a lot of volume. And it just sometimes didn't translate. And I think that might have contributed to the damage in his hand and wrist a bit as well. I don't really know what was going on with all that, but for a while he wasn't able to play, and I feel like that might have contributed. But he dug his heels in and insisted that the purity of tone was all that mattered, and that, folks, is dedication. He never used pickups again, and when Kelly Joe committed, he committed like nobody else could. So we'll hear from some more folks here as we sort of come to the end of our thing, but I do have a little interview that I did with him when we were making the Brother Sinner album, and this was meant to be sort of a promo video or something, I guess. But it has some nice sort of classic Kelly Joe moments in it, and it also addresses his thoughts on slide guitar at the time, because he just kind of brought the whole bottleneck thing into his music again. And this is shot at my old studio in Vancouver, Canada. And another interesting thing about this footage is it's just my handheld phone, so the camera stuff isn't great. But the music that he plays before I'm interviewing him is actual music from the record. So the audio is really good because it's pulled straight off the album, and this is the take from the record that ended up on the album. So this is him actually doing the take that's on the record, and then we talk about slide guitar and whatnot. So this is just a little thing that we made at the time. This is from, I guess, 2012.
There is nothing I found to stop my going down. Still, I hope for the Lord to provide.
Now we're into slide guitar land. Your favorite subject.
Yeah.
Because nobody really ever bugs you about the slide guitar, do they?
No, just pretty much every show. I wanted to play slide guitar again. And I started with the lap slide, figuring out, if I was going to find some new stuff to do or to write or whatever. But I have had a long-standing fascination with bottleneck playing, and when I sat down to play the lap style, my memory of the limitations that I kept finding back when showed up immediately, and it was like, I don't want to fight this right now, I want to get to these songs.
When the time is right, you will be ready. Step into its light, all every sinner owns an equal share, hidden and glorious. All in the air.
If I could just play other notes along with that slide thing, I said, maybe I can do that with the bottleneck. And so I started experimenting with that at home, and actually, and listening to your playing as well, and thinking about that. You can put the slide down on the strings and fret around it as well, or you can lead up to slide stuff with fingers and things. So when I switched my energy over to bottleneck, I didn't feel anything regarding limitations. It's all open to me now. I can write whatever I want to write and figure out how to play whatever I want to play. Any combination of notes, any chord motion, it's all there. So, and because I I was in such a really nice creative place. I didn't want to stop it in any way because the bottleneck thing seemed like it was completely available to me. I said, perfect, and that's all it took.
Oh, you will be step into his light. Oh, every sinner oh, equal share in that glorious.
So good. Well, we're getting kind of close to the end. I have another final batch of tribute videos that were sent in from folks, and a bit more music to play for you. So let's have a look. Jesse Zubat was my partner in Zubat and Dawson, and we did all kinds of work together with Kelly Joe at the time. And Jesse sent in this video. Let's hear what he has to say. Where are you, Jesse? He is right here. There he is.
Whoa. Birds going crazy.
Hey, this is Jesse Zubat here. I'm just want to pay my respects to Kelly Joe and somebody who I'll miss greatly. Kelly Joe was one of those musicians where pretty much every single note that ever came out of him was perfect, and that's a very rare thing. The other thing about Kelly Joe for me was the way that his representation of the blues was so authentic, and is that such an old musical form? It was always, I remember the first time hearing him, it was so fresh to hear somebody just sound so raw and so real. And I think for me that was the biggest thing about the power of his artistry. Steve Dawson and I met Kelly Joel probably, I don't know, 2001 or 2 or something, at various folk festivals, and just got to become really good friends, and it just seemed inevitable to work with him, ask him to come and work with us, and we were so lucky to do some recordings. He came and played on one of our albums, and then we did Slingshot Professionals with him and went on the road for a year or 2 or something, and had some very, very great memories. And one of the things I also remember the most is how was humor. Humor was a massive thing for us, and yeah. So just paying my respects, and I'll miss Kelly greatly, and I'm sure we all will. And wherever he's gone now, I hope he's feeling that peace and rest, good rest. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. My old brother, Jesse Zubat. Hura Fay is great artist, and she learned a great deal from Kelly Joe. And according to her, he is the reason that she took up the slide guitar. And she sent this in. Let's have a listen to Pura Faith.
Hi, I'm Pura Faith, and I'm sending in just a few words of my condolences to the family, friends, colleagues, and everyone who loved and supported Kelly and was influenced by him. And I was, and I met him many years ago at the Edmonton Folk Festival when I sang on stage with him with my group called Eulalie. And he was playing his guitar, and so it influenced me, and it became a part of my music. And so he meant a lot to me. And I had seen him again in France many years later. And I was touring, he was touring. So I bumped into him just a few times, and it was always kind of a funny, I had written a song called "If I Was Your Guitar, I'd Be the Happiest Woman Alive." And so when I was in France, there's an interviewer for a magazine, his name was Roman, when he asked me about, when he was interviewing and asking my favorite and my influences, and I said Kelly Joe Phelps. He goes, "No, that's impossible." He says, "He is here in Paris." And the next thing you know, I'm at the concert, and I told Roman about that song. I said, "But please don't say anything to him, please." And so we go backstage after the concert, and the first thing Roman says to Kelly is, "You won't believe this, but she wrote a song for you called 'If I Was Your Guitar.'" And I'm like, "Roman, stop." And Kelly just busts out laughing, and he says, "I don't think she wants you to tell." So, of course, he told him, and I was absolutely mortified. And Kelly's girlfriend at the time came walking over, and she goes, and she was trying to say something, but I don't think she knew what to say, but Kelly laughed pretty good. Anyway, that was one of my several like that kind of experiences with Kelly. But I loved his music so much. I still do. He's forever. He is forever. And I've heard many stories about him, but the times that I had known him, he was always very, very stable and clear. And his concerts were beautiful. I thought he should have been even larger than he was, and his spirit certainly was large. So he filled the room. He filled everywhere. So rest in power, Kelly. Thank you.
Thank you, Pura. Love that French accent. Sarah Northcott was a dear friend of Kelly Joe's, and she sent us this video. I believe she's in northern BC somewhere, but I don't know that for sure.
My name is Sarah Cheevers Northcott. I met Kelly Joe Phelps almost 20 years ago this summer, and at the Vancouver Folk Fest. The next 24 hours was sort of surreal in terms of just us unfolding each other's company. He was such a sweet, authentic, gentle soul. It's one of those things where you feel like you've known someone for a long time. He gave me a story that he had written about why he had tattooed my name on his shoulder. And I was flattered, of course, but more touched by the fact that he could kind of revel in the beauty of the moment. There's a couple lines he wrote that I thought just sort of, well, they're all good, but just that he could, I'm just going to stop talking and read it. I'd remember that the world still holds some very beautiful surprises, no matter how much I might doubt it or think I know about it. The tattoo sort of represented beauty, passion, honesty, joy, all the lovely things life has to offer, and to be open to its possibilities. So that's what I'm gonna hold on to from our time together. I did get to meet Rachel. I'm sure she doesn't remember, but I played badminton with her, and it was a treat getting to see him in his home and with his daughter. Anyway, sending love to Kelly Joe's family and all that were touched by his music.
Thank you, Sarah. We have a message here from John Floridis, who was a fellow musician and friend and has some recollections about playing with him, and let's check that out.
Hello, friends of Kelly Joe. This is John Floridis in Missoula, Montana. Like a lot of you, I think from what I'm reading, I was a fan first and just knocked out by his music on all levels, and felt like it was just amazing to be able to promote a concert for him here in Missoula well over 20 years ago now. And I also do a radio show for Montana Public Radio, and we had him on the show three times, I think. And then as a musician myself, I did a bunch of shows with Kelly around the West. And so I got to know him professionally on all those levels, and then also got to be professional friends and then personal friends. And like a lot of you, I'm sure I have a ton of stories. Maybe two I'll just share really quickly. On the lighter side, I asked him innocently enough one time before one of his shows if he had a MySpace page. So that tells you how far back this goes. And he went on this spectacular Kelly Joe rant that I would give anything in the world to have a recording of, about, I don't know, flipping MySpace. I hate flipping MySpace. You know why I hate MySpace? Because you have to be friends. You have to be friends. I don't know these guys. Some guy, some F word wants to be my friend. I don't know you. Who are you? You're my friend, John. If I want to call you, I'll call you. I'll send you an effing email. No, I don't have an effing MySpace page. I can't begin to do it justice. But I remember opening for him in Gallatin Gateway, which is outside of Bozeman in Montana. And one of those things where you play the opening set as the opening artist, you think, oh, I can't play any better than that. I really knocked my game up a notch because it was Kelly Joe. And I even played some bottleneck slide in front of him, which was incredibly intimidating. I thought I did really good. And then he came out and just completely reinvented the instrument. And I just sat there, with my mouth agape going, oh my God, I thought I knew how good he was. And it was a whole other level. And it wasn't even so much the notes, it was the stuff that he got in between the notes. It was I had really had the impression it was like, well, this must be what it's like to have heard Hendrix at his best. Another thing that I want to share, and it is a little more serious, but I think it's good to share, is that one of the shows that Kelly and I did here in Montana, we got done, and he was just going through a really hard time with some personal stuff. I'll just say that. And as the night wore on, it really was getting to him. And we were walking around with my former girlfriend. And at some point, he just walked over to the side of a building, and he just broke down and started sobbing. And it was one of those instances where, as a friend, the only thing I knew to do was to go over and hug him and to kind of hold him and let him know I was a friend and I was there for him. And I really feel honored to have been there for that moment. Next day he was fine. We went and played in Idaho and even made jokes about it and stuff. But like a lot of you, Kelly and I kind of drifted apart. No falling out to speak of it at all. And I suddenly remember I was measuring the time in between contact in years. And I remember having a conversation with Jeff Foucault a few years ago, asking about Kelly. And I think he had contact with him sooner than me, or more recently than I had. And I just kept saying, you got to get in touch with him. And then I realized that the email I had was out of date and I didn't know how to get a hold of him. And he just kept thinking, oh, well, eventually I will. So, yeah, this has hit really hard for me on a lot of levels. I'm sure anybody who's watching this, it has as well. Kelly, I love you, buddy. I love you, brother.
Thank you, John. And we have one more of these videos to share with you for the day. And again, thanks so much to everybody who contributed one of these. It's meant a lot to hear some of these stories and, you know, just different ways that Kelly Joe came into people's lives. He did that a lot. He came in and out of people's lives all the time. And it's interesting to hear from some of those people. So sneaking in just under the wire in time to get this in is a great harmonica player from Toronto, Carlos Del Junco, who had a number of opportunities to play with Kelly Joe, and he's going to tell us about that a little bit. This is Carlos Del Junco.
My name's Carlos Del Junco. Thanks so much, Steve, for putting this together, and heartfelt condolences to his family and close friends. Apologies to read this. I just want to be as brief as possible and to the point since there's so many others sharing. And apologies to read mostly with one eye. I just had my first cataract surgery and still relying on my old lens to read the computer screen. I mainly knew Kelly Joe as a musician, harmonica player, and sometime friend over the years. I met him at the Winnipeg Folk Festival in the late 90s. And we shared a main stage round robin between myself and my band, another act I can't remember who, and then Kelly Joe was solo, and he completely mesmerized the crowd as he did me. There seemed to be a mutual admiration for what each of us did musically. He was uber clean cut at the time with this neatly cropped hair and wearing a kind of brown sports jacket, jeans, and a white dress shirt. I told him he looked like an all-American astronaut, and he got a good chuckle out of that. And of course, playing this beautiful soulful blues music with his amazing lap-style slide guitar and his mix of smoky yet somehow angelic vocals. He made a point to keep in touch over the years, and I eventually got to do a few gigs with him, accompanying him in a duo format. I went stayed at his place in Portland for a couple nights after I'd finished a tour. He was all such a gentle guy, gentle souls. He seemed to me this kind of contrary combination of a calm, serene Buddha and then quietly brooding over some very profound thought, but always quick to smile and poke fun and make a joke. We did this mini tour in Alberta, I think it was 2002, just after I'd finished a tour with my band, me tagging along, sitting in with him for most of each show. We played in Calgary, Alberta, then Banff, Alberta. And in Banff, he'd polished off a whole bottle of wine before the show. And at one point towards the end of the set, he grabbed one of my harmonicas and started playing with me. Needless to say, I felt pretty uncomfortable and slightly embarrassed, and perhaps a bit insecure I wasn't doing him justice on his tunes. The next night, we played a little theater on the outskirts of Edmonton. He only drank maybe a glass of wine, and this time we shared this uber magical evening. We both felt it. And the audience felt it too. He was so excited afterwards, he booked me a plane ticket to come and do his show with him in Winnipeg the next night. Needless to say, while it was a good gig, we didn't quite share the magical experience of the night before. That's all to say that as a solo improvising musician, never quite playing the same song the same way, he was definitely a tough act to follow. And ultimately, he was like this one-man band that didn't need anyone tagging along. I was always somewhat intimidated, I guess, and just in awe of his improvising skills. Anyway, since a few gigs we did together, we kept in touch occasionally through email or an occasional phone call to catch up. And I'm guessing, like many of us, you may have experienced, or at least according to what Steve Dawson shared with me in the last several years, he kind of just disappeared, which made me both angry and sad. Over the last several years, I'd listened to a playlist of cherry-picked tunes from all the CDs, and every time I do that, I'd always want to reach out to him after listening. Anyway, I really hope he's in a better place on the other side. So rest in peace, Kelly Joe. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. And again, thank you to everybody who sent in these videos. It's just meant a lot. So, good people from around the world, I can't tell you how heartbreaking this has been to witness the outpouring of grief and sadness around the passing of Kelly Joe Phelps. Some of my greatest memories of making music and in life, or with him in one way or another. And I know so many of you had just as many meaningful experiences as well, even in quick exchanges and intense meetings. His honesty, his sense of humor, his incredible integrity, and his amazing music will never be forgotten. And like Jeff Lang says, or just said, I often wondered if I'd get that call again to make another record with him. I sort of did at one point, maybe 5 years ago, when he called and said he was playing a little bit, and maybe one day he'd work up to sharing some more music. But you know, the more I think about it, the more I've come to realize that that just wasn't Kelly Joe. I feel like he felt like he'd said what he had to say, and he was spent and tired of the whole thing. He left us a beautiful body of work, and I feel like he felt his job was done here. And musically, I mean, there's not many artists that just tap out that way, but he did, and it's really just another unforgettable moment that was something he was able to pull off in a career full of many unforgettable moments. Rachel, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to add or say to the folks out there?
Well, first of all, I mean, I would just like to thank everyone for being a part of this. This has been a really special way to honor and remember him, and it's been incredible to listen to everyone's stories. And while, as many people mentioned, he did just kind of disappear, and he did that from everyone. And I was lucky to spend the past year with him. I spent a lot of time with him the past year. And while it was not always good, it was pretty rough at times. There were pockets of good, and he was playing guitar again. And the last time that I got to hear him play guitar was at Thanksgiving. He was at my house with my husband and my father-in-law. And we had gifted him an old Kalamazoo guitar that my husband's grandfather got from a friend in World War II in the Navy. And so we got to hear him play that, and it sounded just like it did growing up. And so yeah, like I said, it was a little bit rough at the end for him, but there were pockets of good. And he was living close to me at the time. And I agree with what Steve said. He had said what he needed to say. He put everything he had into his music, and there just wasn't anything left to give with anyone else. So thank you all for being here and for sharing all of your memories. It's been very, very good, very touching, very cathartic, and just, I really appreciate it.
Yes. I'm going to just play one more recent video that sort of ties into what you were talking about, Rachel, with him, you know, occasionally picking up the guitar. And this is a more recent, and it's from his old pal, Jim Franklin. And it's the last clip I know of Kelly Joe playing. He's definitely not in the gig shape that he once was, but it's a really lovely little clip of him casually picking guitar over at Jim's place. And this is a few years back. I'm not sure exactly when, but it's a short little clip, and it's quite lovely. So let's have a look.
Sweet as you.
It's so great. So again, thank you for spending the afternoon with us here, or the evening, or the morning, wherever you are, sending in your photos and stories. And You know, we'll never forget our friend and hero, Kelly Jo Phelps. I'm going to leave you with a beautiful performance. This is at my house back in Vancouver in 2012, and it's him playing the song Hard Time, They Never Go Away. It's not the best audio, it's just done into a phone, but as we all know, Kelly Jo was all about spirit and feel, and this has it pouring out of it. This song and the guitar playing on this just knocked me out, so I wanted to share it with you. Thank you, Kelly Jo. We love you. We miss you. And thanks for being with us today, everybody. We'll probably hang out a little bit in the chat if you'd like to chat at all. And thank you for watching this with us. It's been really cathartic, as Rachel said, to get to share some of this stuff together. Thank you. This is Hard Time. They Never Go Away.
Cold, long, weary, winter's long day. Busted up old overcoat covering my head. Just one more season of trying to lay it down. Damn old life I mumble, no one around. Through a million miles of walking, in a million things to say, I can't cut closer to the bone. Hard time, they never go away. It is a hard wind blowing, coming on strong, throwing down a good man, everything's gone wrong. Oh yeah, I led a troubled life, poison me. Buried most of the good parts, let the bad run free. Through a million miles of walking, in a million things to say, oh, I can't cut closer to the bone. Hard time, they never go away. In heartache and sadness, look to be my friends. Yeah, I'd like to kill them both and start all over again. They count on defining their lives by my past. Come now, great Redeemer, heal me up at last. Through a million miles of walking, in a million things to say, I can't cut closer to the bone. Hard time, they never go away. Through a million miles of walking, in a million things to say, I can't cut closer to the bone. Hard time, they never go away.
Thanks for being with us today. We're going to fade off at this point. I'll keep the the chat going alive. If you'd like to say anything, I'll stick around. Rachel might stick around or not. But thank you again, and hope to see you all soon. And this is us signing off.